killed a few hours, just someone to play with, basically.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. All right. We're
We're
live.
good. We're
Yeah, we're
live.
good. Yep.
Easy. All right. Love it. Let's do a proper reset here then.
Yeah.
Hail cheaters. Welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, welcome back to Canada. I remain in New York, but welcome back to your adopted town of Canada.
Very weird to see you on video right now because I saw you in person just a few hours ago.
And I slept in my home, and now here you are as a stranger on a digital, whatever.
Got home, kissed the wife, kissed the cat, and said, "Sorry, babe, got a pod."
Yeah, that's exactly. Something came up. It's like Robin Williams and Good Will Hunting. You got to see about a podcast,
right? But it was a great weekend. It was great to finally get back to the Black Horse, our Brooklyn Premier League watching haunt, and saw Brian, the owner, and the lovely staff there. Shout out to Lorenzo. There's no possible way he listens to this pod, but he's like the bar back and takes good care of us.
That's true. That's true.
But it seems like whenever you and I get together to watch these days, it's like what some might call damp squibs. We suffered through our mutual Salah captaincy blank.
Yep.
But we saw certain good things come to fruition. I mean, you kind of walked into a Solanke injury, which resulted in 8 points off the bench.
Yeah, from Robinson. So I did kind of luck out because I would have been kind of kicking myself because I highly doubt because what I didn't do was transfer Solanke to Wood, which is what I was heavily debating doing, and then because of the double game week announcement, I was like, let me just gamble. Let me just see if I can get away with not playing Wood, or without bringing him into my squad. And it didn't really work out. Obviously, I mean, not only do I have the Solanke injury, but it worked out kind of okay in the sense that I ended up with 8 points, and I wouldn't have started Robinson if I had brought in Wood anyway. So basically, it was 8 points versus 12. And so basically the question is like, is one extra transfer worth 4 points? And I suppose the answer is it's like a wash because that's a 4-point hit, right?
It depends on if you're planning to get Wood at some point anyway. And was your part of your rationale for not bringing in Wood for Solanke that you didn't think you wanted Chris Wood in the short term or the midterm?
Well, I mean, how could you not want him in all of the terms? I guess it was just like my feeling was I'm a little kind of in neutral a little bit in terms of overall rank. I'm not having a horrible season like last year, but I'm kind of like in the 400K range, just sort of waiting for that opportunity to jump up. And I think, there's just a feeling like, okay, maybe if this is an opportunity possibly to kind of like attack that and like really go all in. Whereas the ceiling with Chris Wood felt like it was, I don't know. I mean, in the end, I don't know, like I would say it was actually not, I should have just made the transfer is what I will say. But I kind of got away with it is my point. And so, but before we, I feel like we're going to put the cart before the horse here a little bit. So we'll get into it in just a second, but Liverpool and Everton have a double. So they will play twice in game week 24. Liverpool will go away to Bournemouth and Everton. This is the race schedule. Was it snow or it was wind? Wasn't it? It was a wind postponement. I remember.
Hey, as somebody whose flight was delayed because of a de-icing sort of situation. My flight where we actually put like 200 lives at stake up in the air.
The lives were in your hand, dude. Yeah.
We only delayed that flight by 40 minutes. So I don't know why it's taken weeks for this Merseyside derby to come back to fruition.
Yeah. And it's an interesting one too, because it's kind of, I mean, I don't know. It's always hard to fit these in, especially when the other team is playing in Europe. Right.
Yeah,
so, Everton, Everton have Leicester and Liverpool at home. Liverpool have Bournemouth and Everton away. And the tricky thing is, I think there's two tricky things about this double. One is that Liverpool play 5 matches in a 2-week span during this window, and in fact, they have matches in between the 2 matches in the double game week. So it's quite tricky, I think, when you're trying to kind of find the like ideal kind of if you're trying to like triple up on Liverpool players, for example, or do the assistant managership on Arne Slot, right? And we can talk more about that. I guess actually that'll be me because you're gone next week. So oh, how lucky for you that you get to
by design.
Yeah, exactly. Get to miss out on the fun assistant manager conversation. So I'll dive into that more next week. But I think we're Darwin scoring a brace today was a little, or yesterday was a little less than ideal if you wanted a little more stability up front, right? It makes it a little trickier, I think, to fully trust Cody Gakpo. So that I don't think Gakpo's first choice or Diaz's first choice, but they are, they're prone to rotation, and especially Diaz, I would say. I mean, Gakpo, since he's been kind of like back and healthy, I would say is fairly first choice.
And this is the point in the season where things really start getting real. Whether you're heading toward a cup final, whether you're still in the Champions League, or you're going for the Premier League title, as Liverpool are doing a majority of those things.
Yeah,
this is when you least want an injury to happen. I mean, just ask Arsenal or Spurs fans. So I agree with your point there that Slot will be thinking a lot about just what is the right calibration of rotation so I can keep this team as fully fit as possible. And he's just kind of got his full squad back together. And I want to keep it that way. So I'm with you that, I mean, I think it helps maybe Gakpo in that Gakpo now sees, competition is on the horizon. Is Nunez going to come into form? I have to make the most of the 75 minutes that I get in the Premier League to prove myself.
Yeah, I think sometimes that stuff helps, and I think sometimes we overrate that stuff anyway, right? It's a little bit like Man City, where we debate. Can you get the rotation stuff right? But really, there are the first team players, and there are the bench players who are going to get rotated in occasionally. And I think what makes it kind of okay with Liverpool, like I sort of got my little caveat out of the way. What makes it okay with Liverpool is that you can start bringing the players in this weekend, right? Because they play Ipswich at home. And this is an Ipswich team that had been kind of finding like a bit of form until Man City
spanked their bare bottom.
Yeah, exactly. They like Bane in the Nightfall comics of the 1990s. They broke Batman's back, and
what would break first, your soul or your body, or what does he say in the Dark Knight?
Yeah, it's all that. So many great lines. I was raised in the darkness. You've only adopted it. Yeah, lots of. They will be the greatest heroes. I love a Bane voice. The Bane voice has lived down so much longer than the Dark Knight Rises.
It's right up there with Borat. It's Borat and Bane. The two great voices in cinema history. I guess just like a minor point of pedantic clarification on Liverpool rotation, in that Luis Diaz was the first person to get subbed off by Slot against Brentford, and Chiesa came on for him, a wide player.
Right.
I'm sorry, I totally screwed that up. Gakpo was subbed for Chiesa, a wide player, and Diaz was subbed later, 10 minutes later, for Darwin Nunez. So I don't know if that, I don't want to basically say it's like for like Gakpo and Nunez, because clearly Slot sees a way to play Gakpo with Nunez.
So. That's not right though, is it? It looks like looks like Cody Gakpo played till the 86th minute.
That's right. It's funny, like FootMob, a great app that we'd both recommend.
You're about to trash it though.
Live in match, the facts run bottom to top, and once the match is over, the facts run top to bottom. So because I can't read with my glasses on, so let's just really clarify that for the listeners. At the 65th minute, Nunez comes on for Luis Diaz to try to change the game. Gakpo remains on the pitch, as you say, until the 87th minute.
Right.
So I want to hit the klaxon too hard on Gakpo rotation. It might just be Luis Diaz who really could be the odd man out.
Yeah, I know, and I agree, and I think Gakpo makes a lot of sense. I think in my situation, it's kind of the perfect transfer because I just lost Dominic Solanke to injury, and there's a forward right now for Liverpool who's 7.4 million, who is about to play Ipswich this weekend and has double to follow. So even if there is some rotation, unless I suddenly think that Cody Gakpo will go from almost perma starter to 3 straight bench appearances over the next 3 game weeks, which is almost impossible, right? That said, there are Champions League matches at midweek. We really jumped right into it, didn't we? I thought we'd catch up more, if you're from your New York trip, but
no.
this is proper FPL chat today, Brandon.
Let's do it. We're rolling up our sleeves, getting our hands dirty.
The double game weeks do change things a little bit, and now that they're like selective, unlike in previous seasons where there were 18 to 77 double game weeks, there were more double game weeks than there were game weeks, Brent. I don't know how that math works out, but it felt that way. But when there's just like one like this, I can kind of get excited about it. It's like, all right, like one double game week. There's some strategy here. So Gakpo, I think, makes a lot of sense for Solanke owners. Just chance it. Like, you maybe only get 2 starts out of 3, but again, the Ipswich match in 23 is what makes those moves so easy. And I think for me, the question then is, so I have 2 transfers now. Do I go even further, and do I just go ahead and bring in, I guess, Konate as well? That would be the other move. And if I do that, I guess what I would end up doing would be Urian Timber to Konate. And again, possibly another case of putting the cart before the horse here conversationally, but we are not getting what we need out of this double Arsenal defense right now.
This was our main topic of conversation at the Black Horse, watching the Arsenal Villa
Only
match.
About 4 of us there, by the way. If you're looking for a place to like take your friends and family, 10 a.m. on a Saturday at the Black Horse, a big, beautiful space. Yeah. Every TV was going, and you and I basically had the place to ourselves. It was fantastic. Good food and drink as well.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, the Arsenal defense is obviously the team is ravaged with injury, and that has like a ripple effect. But I think you put it more succinctly in saying there's no value there right now. I mean, if you look at the fixtures coming up for Arsenal, I think I have the Raya Gabriel double up. That's certainly worth keeping that for another game week with Wolves in 23. But then but I don't know, City at home, easily a 0-0 whenever those cats get together, and then it's Leicester and West Ham right after
easily.
That.
I think they could concede away to Wolves pretty easily, and I think they could concede at home to Man City pretty easily too. So I mean, the next 2 fixtures to me don't look great. Third one, they probably won't concede to Leicester, but I don't know. Leicester scored a brace out of nowhere against them a couple of weeks ago. And I also just think if Timber is playing as a center back,
Thomas Partey as right back is not ideal.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see how long this is an enforced thing because of the hamstring tightness for Saliba. So it's not that significant of a injury, but you just, I don't know. Hamstrings are like a horror injury in football / soccer, right? It's just sort of they recur all the time. Like anything can trigger them. I don't know. Like that was actually why I got spooked off Captain Isak in game week 22 was the hamstring thing. I was like, because it was just like, well, how many times have we seen? I remember this happened with Diego Costa a few years ago, where he had this hamstring and he kept starting these matches and going off in like the 7th minute because this actually maybe when he's at like Atletico Madrid. That's like
he was ingesting a lot of horse placenta around that time, is what I remember.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm spooked by hamstring injuries. So we'll see. I think we could get more Timber at center back, which again. He's still like cheap, but he obviously doesn't have Gabriel's goal scoring prowess.
Yeah, another thing that we've talked about too is the Arsenal double up. If Raya is not involved, is you're taking up 2 defender slots, and we keep seeing week in week out there is a defender who's worth a lot more at a cheaper rate, be it Robinson, be it Hall, be it Munoz, and this double Arsenal defense that's not good EV and takes up it's too much money for too many slots, and you're losing out on obvious picks all the while.
So let's wow, we just kind of jumped right into it, Brandon. I feel like reset us. Oh yeah, okay, I've got a question here for you. Okay. Which comes from Toko Ramirez. Okay, so we talked a lot about Liverpool. We talked a little bit about Arsenal as well. What about Everton, Brandon, the other double game week team? And Toka says, are you planning to attack the double with any Everton assets? I'm thinking Michaelenko, who you already have, so you're a little ahead of the game there, and going totally nuts with the prolific You can't read sarcasm too well into text, Brandon.
Uh-huh.
But he is the goal scoring Dominic Calvert-Lewin after all.
Yes.
So,
Right.
maybe he meant profligate, and it got
Yeah, Chat
autocorrected
GPT
to
mistranslated that.
yeah, exactly. So whether he's profligate or sarcastically prolific, Dominic Calvert-Lewin did score this weekend, and Jai scored as well. So, and he's even
Mm-hmm.
cheaper.
Who's
Uh,
a good player that no one has spoken about. Certainly, people have noticed him on the
yeah,
pitch,
yeah,
but the Everton attack being so bad
yeah.
has just made him completely meaningless to any
Exactly.
FPL
He's played
conversation.
he's played every match this
Yeah.
season. And he has 4 goals and no assists on the season. But yeah, he is a good player, and I think with Moyes, I mean, I do wonder if we'll see. I don't know. I mean, they have scored 3 goals already, which is
Yeah.
I don't know how many goals did they score the last like 7 game weeks under
Surely
Sean
it's
Dyche.
0.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, this is the received wisdom on the streets is that in training, Moyes is emphasizing attack. And
yeah.
so this makes the topic of investment in Everton ahead of this double kind of complicated
Yeah.
because before Moyes arrived, we knew one certainty about Everton, and it was that they
Right.
were pretty good defensively.
Yeah.
So if they had the double, just look at that. Forget the Liverpool match. It's the
Right.
Leicester match,
Yep.
and I'll start Mikolenko or Pickford all day, so I can
Yep.
go for maybe one clean sheet. Now it gets a little more complicated.
Yep.
Mikolenko could be good for a grand total of 2 points in this double.
Yeah, it's tricky. I think, and by the way, I just checked as you were talking. It was 1 total goal scored in the previous 6 matches
Wow,
in the Premier
wow,
League. So, yeah, so they did triple the last month and a half.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that I do think it's tricky. Obviously, you have Michaelenko already. I think getting another one. It is 2 home matches, right? So there's a little bit of maybe it's a little bit easier. I think Branthwaite is another one you could consider. I mean, he's kind of. I still kind of think of him as the returning Branthwaite, but he's actually been
Mm-hmm.
back since game week 11. But he had 3 goals last season, 3 goals and an
Yeah,
assist. He's
yeah.
center backs at home. Like you'd probably be some more set pieces. Like there could be some opportunities there. McNeil being out does hurt them a little on set pieces, but
Mm-hmm.
and he's got a knee injury. We not expect to be back for I don't know an indeterminate amount of time.
Well, Mikolenko
Yeah,
he is useful for like at Lucas
yeah,
Dean level, sort of like crossing
that's
sort of
true.
attack. And we haven't seen that from Mikolenko in a couple of months, but yeah, that's
Yeah,
I'm definitely starting Mikolenko happily,
yep.
uh, with the hopes that we'll just lock into some defensive or attacking return from him.
Well, yeah. What about anybody else? Like, there's the Calvert Lewin thing, and Jai.
I mean, Idrissa Gana Gueye got his
Yep,
2 assists
yep,
against Spurs.
yep.
I don't know what to make of that. These are his only 2 attacking returns all season, but just
Yeah,
in terms of price, 4.8 for a guy who this is sort of like the Jack Corkification of your
Corky.
double game week plans. Like just
Yep.
get a midfielder who has no real fantasy return potential, but maybe
Yeah.
you could get 5 points out
It's
of
like
a guy who
it's a
costs
waste.
4.8.
It's a waste of a transfer, basically, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, especially like, and you can't take a hit for these guys. So
Hmm.
there's the only way it really makes sense is if like you could downgrade somebody to Njai or Calvert Lewin. They're actually the same price at 5.4 million, and that gives you enough money to upgrade to Luis Diaz. I'm
Or
like trying to think
get
of
like
some.
Allison in goal, or
Right.
even
That's
Trent.
yeah,
Like it's sort of like a get a weak Everton asset
yeah,
who's gonna get minutes
yeah.
to also help you afford a strong Liverpool
Is
asset.
Raya to Allison? Do we think that's worth it, or is that
I'm thinking
too?
about it.
Yeah,
I rolled like you this week, and now I'm up to 3 transfers, and I feel like
yeah,
suddenly at 3 transfers, doing a goalkeeper move seems less of a
yeah,
straight up luxury.
yeah.
And
That makes sense.
yeah, if I right now I feel like there are other players I want apart from Trent.
Sure.
So if I don't go Trent, Allison makes a lot of sense, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. I think so too. I think with 3, you kind of pick the ideal spot where like we got 3+ transfers. By the way, I will say I did not expect the rollover to 5 transfers to be as big of a thing as it turned out to be. It may only be people who are heavily engaged.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, although I was talking to you about this a little bit yesterday, we had a strong day of FPL conversation. It kind of got us. It got we reset a little bit in terms of I talked a little bit. I want to like build my FPL game from like the ground up. I want to like familiar with the expression, Brandon. Are you familiar with strip down to brass tacks?
I am now. Wow, that's really interesting.
It's when you're redoing old furniture, Brandon. You take off the fabric and you get down to the brass tack. That's what I need to do with my whole approach to fantasy. I got to get down to brass tacks.
We need to reupholster your fantasy game. Wonderful.
We really do. So I think I would probably avoid everyone on Everton except for a defender. I know that's kind of a boring answer, but I just don't see like a high upside. That's really the issue, right? Is like you said, there are some players you might nick an assist out of, right? But there's no one. I don't know. Even for the 2 home matches, it's hard for me to think, oh yeah, like Calvert-Lewin is going to just go off. Like he hasn't gone off in several years, right? And we still have the injury explosion. Like maybe it'll still happen, but I mean, it's just like we're still thinking of Calvert-Lewin as like a kind of viable fantasy option. But his last good season was 2021. Like Patrick Bamford was a star in this league the last time Calvert-Lewin was a viable option. It's a completely different time fantasy wise. The whole team is, and let's see. I mean, the problem is if we had you kind of got at this earlier, but like if we had 4 weeks of Moyes, like maybe we'd have a better sense, right? But 1 week of Moyes, so you could just wait a week. Obviously, it's the double isn't until game week 24, so there's a little more time to sort things out.
And Everton just ahead of us. They have an away match against Brighton. Which Brighton aren't like they had a great win against Manchester United this weekend, but they're not all guns blazing right now. So it just feels like that might be a tight match, not one worthy of early Everton investment.
Mo Salah with back-to-back blanks.
Annoying.
And no, it's annoying. I will say I still have a triple captainship available. Up until recently, he has been a fantastic, rock steady fantasy asset. Why, I haven't really seen like too many people talking about it, but like he has to be a viable triple captain option for this double, right? I mean, it's just because it's Mo Salah playing twice.
Yeah, I guess the argument against that would be, can we just wait until like Liverpool plays Southampton again, where we know that they're going to score 3+ goals. And with the 2 away matches, a tricky local derby and a Bournemouth in form. That's maybe 3+ goals across 2 matches. Okay. So I think that's maybe what we're thinking with not triple captain.
You'd like to see the form come back a little bit. Right. Like, I think if Mo Salah, if he gets like 2 goals and an assist in the Ipswich match this weekend, I think triple captain is on the table as a viable option. It feels like he's in that kind of zone he falls into sometimes where he just gets a little peripheral to the attack, right? And I feel like that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and he was a little tunnel vision against Brentford, where and we see it all the time with Mo. The longer the game goes on, and he doesn't have his goal, the more he's just anytime he gets the ball, the goal wheels start turning in his brain.
Yeah, exactly. And then suddenly he's shooting from everywhere, like he can't help himself. We see a lot less and less of that, I'd say, in recent years. He's become a much better passer, I feel like, in the
100%.
Last season or 2. All right. Well, we can talk more about the double again next weekend because we'll have Champions League at midweek, and so we'll learn some things from that. And then obviously we have this weekend we get game week 23, and then next weekend, the following weekend, is when we'll have the double with Liverpool. So there is some time to evaluate both Liverpool and Everton and see. Right. So let's a couple other things that we talked about Arsenal a little bit. I guess the big news from today, other than there was a moment until Spurs blew it at the end, Brandon, where we had 3 matches that were all 3-1. The rare triple 3-1, and it would have been nice to keep that. But I think the big story from today had to be, one story is just Forest just continuing to impress. Like, I'm really rooting for them now, and we're starting to approach that slight zone where you're like, could this be a Leicester thing? Like, could they, could they just keep winning and they have no European commitments, right? It's like they can just play the best guy. No one's going to get exhausted. So anyway, we'll see about that. But the big story is from a fantasy perspective is Man City 6-0 road win, very impressive. KDB seems like he's finally rediscovered a form that I feel like we haven't seen like too much of really in like a couple of seasons. And I think that's helping kind of lift the whole squad, and Holland's confidence seems to be back a little bit. Of course, Phil Foden being the biggest story, 2 goals and an assist today.
Yeah.
Who knows what happened there, but I just from like a enjoyment, like I want to enjoy watching Man City play. They are much more fun to watch when he's good, right? Like just everything funneling through Holland was not supremely entertaining.
No, and like the only dark point of the team today was Nunez continuing to be pretty terrible in that Man City lineup. So the question is, was this just like they played Ipswich on the right day? And it was just a good matchup for them. How quickly can we forgive Manchester City for the last couple of months? Because these guys still cost a lot of money. And certainly if, say, you replace Liverpool with Man City and the game week 24 double, it becomes, I think, a much more loaded conversation about Phil Foden. As it is, I'm like, I'm not convinced I need him.
No, I'm not convinced either. I will say I feel more confident in the attack than I do in the defense, right?
Yeah,
the defense
always.
Just this last week, conceding 2 goals away to Brentford. They've just been conceding lots of goals, all season long. And so, but I mean, 3 wins in 4, and then the Brentford draw as well, right? So 10 points from 12. It's an impressive, the best Premier League run they've had since going back to the start of the season.
And Foden has 5 goals in 3 Premier League matches.
5 goals, and if you go back one more match from there, it's 5 goals and 2 assists in the last 4. So fantastic run for him. So congrats to anybody who kind of risked it early. And
I'd love to have those points. Don't get me wrong.
It's a tricky run ahead for them. Chelsea at home next weekend, Arsenal away in 24, Newcastle in 25, Liverpool 26, Spurs away in 27. I mean, Spurs away, okay, that's probably not a bad match from an attacking perspective, although who knows if Spurs will still, have Ange at that point. I actually wonder if there are so many injuries with Spurs now that they just keep Ange. Like there's at some point it just becomes like the Lions defense yesterday, where you're like, well,
good Lord.
I know, where you're like, well, this is terrible, but they've lost 20 of their best 25. I mean, I know.
What do you think's going to happen?
What do you think's going to happen here? Exactly. And so I don't know. I mean, but I will say this is probably the worst run that Man City will have the rest of the season.
And not to mention, on Wednesday they are away in Paris playing PSG.
That's right.
And both of them are fighting for their lives in that Champions League table.
Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah, right, exactly.
No, metaphorically.
So that's going to be it's not like a cage match to the death, Josh. No one is literally going to die.
Be cool though if that was.
I mean, the viewership would probably be larger if that were the case. Like Champions League : Running Man. That's kind of a good idea.
I know. I mean, the Running Man is very clearly coming for us. And not even like in a Squid Game sort of way. It's gonna be like a literal, just like a TV show they air. Squid Game. I watched that later than everybody else, by the way, Brandon. A good 5 years after everybody else. I did not watch the second season, which I heard was bad.
I haven't watched a second of the second season.
Yeah, the first one was fun. It was a little on the nose, not quite as like. It was no Parasite. Right, but it had some moments that were fun.
Different goals, I don't know, different type
goals.
Of vibe. But like classic fun streaming series that has no idea how to end itself. And it was more fun just tuning in to each episode, seeing what perilous game they'd have to play.
I did not regret watching it. I wasn't for sure. It was fun. It was I watched the whole entire thing at the gym, and that was like the perfect place to do it. But as far as Bryce's question, another Patreon question, he said, "Are City back on the menu?" I think no. I think it's fine to go with Foden if you just want to ride the form player. I think Holland's still too expensive, and I think with the double, to me, I feel like going back to the Forest thing, I feel like I still have to like bring in more Forest players. It feels ridiculous to me that I haven't had Wood. I did have Wood to start the season, but I haven't had him for several weeks, and it's very clearly hurt my overall rank, right? And so that would be a bigger priority to me than City.
Sure, and maybe Holland is doing okay again, but he's still not really matching the output of Isak or Wood. you'd never captain Haaland. We're not. I don't think we're anywhere close to a point where Haaland is worth the money you pay yet.
No. Classic Haaland goal today. The kind of like ball in space. Like he never scores those anymore. It seems like. But all right. So then as far as another team that's back on the menu potentially, maybe a little more interesting, just because they're so much cheaper, would be Crystal Palace, who are had another nice win. They've been keeping clean sheets as well, and it's sort of what we expected, right? Like going into the season, and where Mateta is awesome, the defense is super solid, and it just wasn't working for like the first half of the season, and it feels like they've kind of, I mean, they haven't even kind of, they've quite clearly righted the ship, and like basically washed away any possible relegation concerns, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and they have a decent run ahead as well. Some really good home matches in the next 6. They play Brentford, Everton, and Ipswich at home. Actually, they have 4 home matches in the next 6. They have another home match with Villa as well, and then away to Fulham, away to Man United. So I do think that Mateta is a super viable transfer option. He's showing the form that last season, I think he had 16 goals in the Premier League. He was fantastic.
And it came late in the season. So we could see the same again. Maybe he's just kind of you remember the Harry Kane lore of he just doesn't score in August or September.
Yep.
Maybe Mateta saw that and modeled his game off of that and said, I can go even later than Kane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing. It's, so it was, I was just pulling them up on the fantasy site, by the way. It's interesting to me that Gahey, 4.5 million, about as unheralded as it gets. Though I think you had Gahey at one point.
I've had him a couple of times. Certainly when we were in the UK last November, and I watch my Gahey clean sheet get vaporized within minutes and live in Technicolor.
Yeah, you handled it well. Yeah, I don't even like moving forward. I do not enjoy having players in my fantasy team in matches.
No.
Like when I'm seeing them live, it seems fun in theory, but it's way better to just watch the match and not have to like sweat.
We should only just go see League One championship games we're in the UK.
Yeah,
next
we really
time.
should just be watching championship or lower. But yeah, Gahey, Munoz. Munoz was a hot player to start the season, so he's actually down to 4.8 now. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists. Gahey's got 3 goals and an assist. Mateta is up to 8 goals on the season. Really not bad. Basically has a good chance to possibly, approach, if not, equal his 16 goal return from last season, which I did not think was possible after his slow start. So, and then you've got the kind of Eze. Eze has suddenly turned into a completely decent fantasy asset, which I didn't think was possible either. He's got a goal and 3 assists in the last 4.
I'm imagining the Michael Jordan meme where Eze saw everyone bringing in Sarr into their fantasy teams, and as they were like, and I took that personally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and of course he's now returning, and Sarr is, exactly. So, I just sort of, I don't have like any strong opinions besides that, but just sometimes a team like Crystal Palace can fall off the radar, right? It's like you have these double game weeks coming up, and it's just more fun to talk about Liverpool assets. But sometimes it's like the bedrock of a good fantasy 11. Brandon can have these 4.5 million Mark Gahey types in there. So anyway, all right. So that's the other. Let's see if I have any more talking points, Brendan, I want to discuss with you.
Watkins, maybe?
Yeah, that was the last one. So Watkins, quietly reclaiming the Villa striker spot with 3 goals and an assist in his last 4, coinciding exactly, like layered on top of Duran's suspension, and then him apparently losing his place in the starting lineup. Yeah, it was kind of funny. You and I had a little bet, we literally like $1 that we bet each other about what minute Duran would come on, and this was when it was like 2-1, and it was like, I was just about to win, and the manager, remember the announcer was like,
he's got his jacket
up. He's standing at the touchline. He's like, and then Watkins scored. He said, he's put his jacket back on. He's going
as I slowly withdraw my dollar bill from your hand.
It was like I was grabbing the bill for, I was like, yeah, exactly. You snatched it away.
Not so fast. Yeah, and when Duran eventually did get on, he had some poor touches, didn't look particularly great. A tricky match for him to try to come in and affect. But Watkins is delivering. as a guy, I took a punt on Watkins during Duran's absence,
Yep.
and I hindsight being what it is, benched
Yeah.
Watkins.
Yeah, it was stupid.
In favor of Ahmad. Come on, like it's just like
or Rogers. That was the one. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I was
Yeah.
I was sloppy with my management in game week 22.
You were traveling,
But I think all eyes will be on Aston Villa midweek. What's the lineup that Emery goes with in terms of the forward? So Aston Villa are away Monaco. They're not under the same level of pressure that like City is to deliver a win. They're pretty much already through without a playoff to the knockout stages.
Yeah.
But like if I see Watkins play 90 midweek and then Villa in game week 23, they have a easier West Ham home match.
Yeah,
seems like a good place to get Duran some minutes. So I'm a little like I have some ticks about
hold
it.
off for a couple days. I think we see Duran start at midweek. That would just make sense, especially with the 2 matches in a week that Villa just had. Like, I don't know why you would play them 3 times, especially when, like you said, they can lose this midweek. They actually think they could probably lose both of the next 2 Champions League matches and still advance up to that, because it's like a tiered thing, right? There's like some people advance and some people go into this like kind of playoff.
So they're currently on 13 points, where I guess they're like 5th place in the automatic through without the playoff place.
Right.
But there's only 1 point basically separating this whole peloton at 13 points, and 12, like Dortmund is on 12 points in 9th place in that next tier.
Right.
So I don't know. Monaco feels like a match for Villa to just target, get the 3 points, and then their campaign is a success.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I don't know. You know what? Doesn't matter what we think, Brandon. We'll know more in a day or two.
Yeah.
When is that? Is that match on Tuesday or Wednesday?
They play on Tuesday. So let's just go through the Champions League fixture. So on Tuesday, Villa away Monaco, and Liverpool are home hosting Lille. On Wednesday, City are away PSG, and Arsenal are where is Arsenal here? They're home hosting Dynamo Zagreb on Wednesday also.
Okay. All right. So a couple tougher ones, couple easier ones. So interesting. All right. So that's where we are. Yeah. So we'll see what we find out about Watkins in the next couple of days. I did mention we had a couple of questions from Patreon that I put into the start of the running order here, Brandon. Just a quick shout out. If you'd like to be my Patreon supporter, if you enjoy the podcast and would like an extra podcast each week, Brandon, something to go for your morning walks with, or something to, I don't know, have on in your car when you're driving your kid to school. I'm sure they love listening to this podcast. You can go to, I know a lot of people listen in their car, though. We hear this often, but you get an extra podcast each week. You get bonus content. You can chat with people on the Discord. The Discord will not be getting banned and then reinstated and then banned again with a 90-day extension and a presidential. Who even knows, right? I'm making a labored TikTok joke here, Brandon. Who knows what is going to happen to any social media networks, Brandon? But we know that the Discord is going to be a place where you can go and talk to people, and everything will be intact.
Yes,
exactly.
Fully intact.
Yeah, exactly. Fully intact. So patreon.com/alwaystreams where you can go. We do lots of contests and mini leagues and so on. So
yeah, we just launched our second half league, which we call the AC FPL non-FPL kit contest.
Yep, exactly.
I do want to give a special shout out to Patreon supporter Daryl Armstrong, Army's Leeds United, who was top of the non-Premier League kit contest league when we Patreon potted on Thursday.
Yep.
You deserved a shout out, buddy, and now you get it on the main feed.
I love it. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I know. Yes, we should be peppering this podcast, Brandon, with all sorts of Patreon.
We need to praise our children as much as we can, Josh.
Exactly. They keep the podcast afloat quite
yes.
Can I say quite literally? Well, in the sense that we
metaphorically,
metaphorically for sure. Yeah, and then literally in the sense that if we didn't have Patreon support, we would not do the podcast. So correct. I think that is so in that sense that they do. All right, well let's move on, Brandon, to game week 23. Okay, that kicks off this weekend. I will put the fixtures up here for you to look at as we're as we are chatting, just for the fun of it, Brandon. Who doesn't like looking at some fixtures?
Yeah,
Nice and
I
clean
love
and
all the little
easy.
crests. I'm a big crest guy.
Oh, the crests are fun, and a great toothpaste brand just turned into a
Can you
great.
believe these crests they came up with for the Premier League?
I know. Okay, let's bring this up inside. Oh, look at that. Big size. Okay, love it. All right, so we have Brian, we have a true FPL classic. This is not one of your fake FPL classics. This is a true FPL classic this next weekend.
No early kickoff on Saturday though. Does that change it?
Oh, it does. Why? Why are they? What are they?
It can never be normal.
Yeah, exactly. Just be normal. That's what I want to. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so it's not an FPL classic. It's an FPL classic.
It's a Diet Coke.
Yeah, exactly. Diet FPL. But you have 5 matches. Was there a traffic issue? Like, why can't you have an early match this week? So you have five matches in the 10 a.m. US, 3 p.m. UK window, and then Man City Chelsea 12:30, and
that'll be a fun match.
That'll be interesting. I think so too. Chelsea are in an interesting spot right now. Like a better version of Spurs, kind of win or lose when they play anybody, right? And so I think that that could be a really
now it's basically Chelsea are suddenly on the bubble of 4th place.
Yeah.
Now we don't know if like the Premier League could end up with 5 places miraculously for the Champions League next season. But still, you look at Man City, like now suddenly hot on their heels. This is a huge match for both City and Chelsea to sort of exert some dominance over 4th place.
Yeah. Bournemouth Forest earlier on in the day has some European importance as well. So it's kind of an interesting match too. So I think this week is pretty simple as far as the captaincy goes. I mean, it's Mo Salah if you want to go with any kind of logical captain pick. If you want to be different, then like if you just like there is a move out there, Brandon, that's like the big gamble, right? And the big gamble is everyone is going Mo. I'm not saying I don't plan to do this, but I'm introducing this as an option, right?
Okay.
Everyone is planning to go for Mo. Maybe Mo gets a rest for this match. Maybe Mo just is peripheral, right? Blanks again, like he has the last couple of game weeks. Phenomenally bad Southampton team are hosting Newcastle. Isak, the streak is broken, but obviously huge Champions League implications right now for Newcastle. They need to win every possible match they can, and they just lost 4-1 at home to Bournemouth. So, this could be a little bit of a bounce back match for Newcastle. So you could go with Captain Isak. That is one alternative that you could consider, and I don't hate that. It's risky, but at least the matches are played at the same time, so you can watch the Newcastle match and then just kind of sweat out the Liverpool match like on background.
I'm with you. I think Isak is the clear alternative there, and even just the way we have seen, we were zeroing in on poor Bednarak during the Southampton match today, and I could just see Isak just running circles around the central defense of Southampton, whereas maybe out wide Southampton might be a little stronger if you're considering Gordon.
Right. Yeah, I think you just gotta. Yeah, I would probably just go Isak there. If I think that's really it though. Of the, it's so interesting. Like Spurs has Leicester, and at this point, who would you even have from Spurs, right? Like there's kind of it's like Son. I'm like not ready to talk about
Kulusevski is
that's true.
He's the guy of the moment.
That's true. He's been fantastic.
Definitely surpassed Brennan Johnson. Seemed like he would be the talking point of Spurs fantasy at the end of the season, and he's totally fallen away. Where Decky is the man now.
Yeah. Good shout there. All right. Well, that's captaincy is pretty straightforward. What are your plans for this week? You have 3 transfers. You talked a little bit about Allison as a potential move. What else is maybe?
I'll say this. There's part of me that just wants to roll again. And it really is that Wolves fixture for Arsenal that I'm kind of like trying to keep my transfer pistol holstered, because I think that's probably a pretty good match for Arsenal to keep a clean sheet, even though it's on the road.
Sure.
My other pain points, honestly, I'm getting nothing from O'Shea at
Yeah.
Ipswich. Am I upgrading my fifth defender to sort of make my team a little bit more flexible? I don't know. I still
Yeah.
feel like with Watkins now kind of putting a little run together, his story is not fully told in my team. So like front line of Wood, Watkins, Isak. Nothing I feel like
No,
urgently that I want to change.
it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Midfield starting Salah, Anthony Gordon, Morgan Rogers, and Palmer. I could start Ahmad over Rogers, who's away Fulham, but Manchester United are just like a total Jekyll Hyde. Uh, it's just like
Yeah.
Rogers and Watkins together, home West Ham feels pretty fun. And then Gabriel, Anthony Robinson, and Hall in the back line. Fulham, maybe a clean sheet is not likely against Manchester United, but Anthony Robinson is just like bench him at your own peril
Right.
for weeks. So I just
Yep.
not seeing any obvious things. Do I want to just hold fire and run 4 frees into the double and just
Yeah.
go for it?
I feel like the only move, if you felt like you were 99% certain to make the Allison move, which is a bit of a luxury move, but having 3 transfers put you in the position to do that sort of thing, then I think that would be the only move, just because given Arsenal's recent
Yeah.
form, I don't think
Yeah.
they've had a clean sheet since game week 16 or 17. And it is away to Wolves, right? And I think
Yeah.
that just, if it were home Wolves, 100%, I would do the same thing. But I think, I don't know, just like, again,
And Cunha playing for a move to Arsenal.
yeah, exactly. He's in the shop window, right?
Yeah.
So your
No,
classic shop
that's
window match.
I usually resist your recommendations, but I think you're right there.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well, I haven't,
Mr. Diversify
yeah,
my portfolio, so
yeah,
I'm just done with this double defense stuff. So yeah,
yeah.
Allison to Raya, then I'll have 3 frees going into the double. This seems like a strong plan
That
to
seems
me.
like it could be the move. Yeah,
Yeah.
hard to see Ipswich scoring in that match, but
Yeah. What about you with
yeah.
your 2 frees? What are you doing?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards, and I'll wait to the Champions League match at midweek, but I'm leaning towards Dominic Solanke, obviously injured, has to go.
Mm-hmm.
Solanke to Gakpo just makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then that might be it from there, because I'm sort of in the same spot as you. I'm considering whether I can, like at the moment, I have Anthony Robinson first bench again, which seems, again, slightly foolish. I don't know. I have Bruno, so that's, yeah, it's kind of dumb. Like, it's kind of part of it though. You're like, well, like I want him to score. And so,
Sure.
it's like, you don't want the divided loyalties or whatever, but
You try to optimize, right?
you try to optimize. Exactly. You try to envision the perfect game week or whatever, but sometimes it's actually better just to build some hedge in there. So, so that's, I'm a little unsure what I'm going to do there. With the other transfer, I wouldn't mind saving the 2. And again, I just want more information, because I think that I just think it's going to be tricky. So game week 23 is this weekend. And then game week 24, yeah. So it's a full week after that. And I'm trying to remember if there were any matches. Like, is there anything in between? Oh yeah, do we have FA Cup in between 23 and 24, or I don't know. I feel like there's something. I don't know. I feel like, is it just a free week between 23 and 24? Would that be allowed, Brandon? Would the game allow that to happen? I don't know.
I don't know. We'd have to go. We'll go back and talk to the intern about that.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is a good podcasting where I just theorize about. Anyway, so the point is, I'd like to have more information though. Regardless, I mean, you just never know who's going to come up with an injury in training, like Solanke did yesterday. So, yeah, my ideally,
next FA Cup round is okay. I can't resist coming back to it. God help me.
Yeah,
February 7th is
so
the date at which
weeks
the
away.
next FA Cup round kicks off.
Okay, got it. So we have a little bit of time still. All right, so I think I'm leaning towards the one transfer. If Gakpo plays like the full 90 at midweek, I would feel a lot less excited about that transfer, because I would make me a little worried that the Ipswich match might be a good chance to give somebody else a run out. What is going on with Jota, by the way? Is there any like I don't know, like he's sort of
Does Slot look at that Brentford match and say, "I just need Nunez's. I need Darwin's physicality to
Yeah.
maybe take a stab at this." Uh,
Yeah.
Jota, actually, no, he was injured going into that match.
Another injury.
Another
Yeah.
injury.
I know there's some article about, it was like, have they found the answer? Like this athletic article, it was like, have they found the answer up front? And I was like, how can you say that about him? Like like pull up any season for him in the last several years. Like he just cannot,
Yeah,
he is not a starter. Like it's just, he
yeah.
cannot stay healthy, unfortunately. So very unfortunately, because he's a great player. He's incredibly fun to watch play.
I do want to say, Kim, who is in the YouTube chat, says that they also have Solanke. The move to Gakpo almost seems suspiciously perfect.
Yeah, I know exactly. Same price. It's like it all lines up, right? And so yeah, Dave Zener on the Discord had asked about the best Solanke replacement. I mean, you could also just ignore the double and just go with Chris Wood if you don't have him already, right? And that's
Yeah.
a fairly like for like in terms of price move. I think Mateta is another one who is he's just flying under the radar, and he's
Hmm.
because he had a slow start to the season, and he's been sneaky excellent the last few weeks. So I think that would be my kind of ranking, would be Gakpo as the double in the Ipswich match, followed by Wood, followed by Mateta, and yeah, and some people probably already have Wood, so just
Yeah.
readjust the rankings accordingly.
Yeah, and listen, I have to continue to help inflate the price of my Watkins stock. So just
Right.
calling out two nice home matches in the
I
next
know.
three for Villa: West Ham, followed by Wolves away, and then it's Ipswich at home
Yeah.
before the run gets a little trickier for Villa.
Yeah. I just just because he's a little more expensive, I don't see him as quite the same like for
Yeah,
like. Yeah.
it is for what we've gotten out of him this season and how he
Yeah.
basically didn't play for a while. He's currently 8.9 million. It's honestly ridiculous if you don't already have him to buy him,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there he could be a fun punt.
He could be, yeah, he could be a fun. I mean, it's worked out well for you, for sure. I mean, especially when you started him. So I think he's been a good pick. Yeah, you made some good moves this year, Brandon. I mean, that's why you're inside, or what are you, borderline 100K? I don't know where you are right now.
After after the first kickoff, I was at 97K. So it's my
Okay.
first time inside 100K. I'm dropped to 130
Okay.
with
Okay.
Sunday's results.
Yeah, and the Chelsea
But
tomorrow. So
yeah, but you
yeah.
won't catch me complaining about that. Like,
No, of course not. No.
I'm feeling great, and it's
Yeah.
guns blazing going
Yeah.
down the home stretch, and just targeting top 50, top 10. Who knows?
Yeah. You got 18 weeks to go.
The way it's
Yeah.
been, like, I don't want to set high targets because, like, as we've discussed, Josh, once you get to a certain OR, it's so much harder to keep
Yeah.
moving up. So my
Sure.
cadence right now has been green arrow, next game week red arrow,
Yeah.
next game week green arrow, and it's actually good practice to get you to not be fully frustrated by red arrows because
Yeah.
you probably have a good squad to be at that rank, and you can kind of push on
Yeah.
very easily the next game week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just sort of comes to the territory. When you're when you're in the millions and trying to make up ground, one good move can really do it, but
Yeah.
it does get a lot trickier. All right, so we have a couple of questions from listeners. Let's wrap things up with those, Brandon. So the LFAT Boy 78 says, given the assistant manager chip score earns 10 more points for lower place clubs, is Ange making himself the number one pick for it? Now, this might be in the bylaws, Brandon. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
What happens if you pick a manager for the assistant managership and they get sacked? Do you just get the replacement manager, like the
Surely.
caretaker manager?
Surely you
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, that would be that yeah, that would be interesting that you have to risk the manager sacking,
yeah,
which then would
yeah,
be get maybe another interesting chip to add yet another needless layer to this game. Could be
yeah.
the sack race chip. You
Mm,
if you get a manager in your team who you think is going to get sacked that game week, and if you hit,
yep,
it could be like a slot machine in Vegas, right? Like, forget about like all these nuances of like, it has to be this to get 2 points here, 2 points there. How about if I have a manager who gets sacked in my team, I get 150 points.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I think that'd be a that would be a really fun why not? Right? I mean, we're already adding non-fantasy
Blue sky
elements
in it
to
over
yeah,
here.
exactly. So let's make it even let's make it like the NBA dunk, like the NBA All-Star contest when MTV used to be involved
Sure,
and have
lower the
that
25-point rim.
yeah, lower the 25-point basket, why not? Um yeah, I am still working through my assistant manager thoughts. The like very simple answer is if you're incentivized for clean sheets, you're incentivized for goals, and you're incentivized for beating teams that are higher in the table for you, or higher in the table than
Yeah.
the team is, right?
Right.
So what you're looking for are Fulham, Brentford, Crystal Palace type squads. I suppose Man United would fall into this category as well, where they're all kind of mid-table or lower, and they're all capable of running off a handful of wins over better, over competition that's better than them. They're all capable of scoring. They're all capable of keeping clean sheets.
Yeah, goals
Yeah,
feel like so crucial to the strategy, which was why,
yeah,
prior to this Spurs match, I thought, well, maybe David Moyes is not a
yeah,
good pick here because they
yeah.
don't score goals, and that's
Right.
leaving points on the table for an
Yeah.
assistant manager.
I think and it's actually I think it's a little hard to talk about assistant manager strategy because you don't have to start using it in game week 24. You
Hmm.
can use it at any point down the stretch, and so there's like the strategy may be different for different people, and sort of it depends a little bit on form. And like at the moment, the like the ideal club for this would be Crystal Palace, right? Given that they are scoring goals and keeping clean sheets,
Hmm.
right? And they're beating clubs. I mean, it's tricky though too, because again, it kind of depends on the week that you play them. Because if they have a run of really good fixtures, but they're all against teams that are
Lower than
below
them.
lower them in the table, then it reduces some of the value. And
Yeah.
so but of course, like we're also talking about like how many teams are there out there that are consistently scoring and keeping clean sheets and beating teams that are higher in the table. If they could do that with any consistency, they'd be higher in the table, right? And so it's a bit
Right.
of there's a bit of circular
That's what
logic
makes
there.
Spurs kind
Yeah,
of intriguing
sure.
because they are in 15th place. Now,
Yeah,
maybe do we analyze the injury list for Spurs and think, well, they'll have a fully fit squad and maybe better
yeah.
defenders,
In 10 weeks or
yeah,
something.
in 10
Yeah.
weeks. So I'm going to hold
Yeah.
my assistant managership because
Right.
that's when they're going to kick on, and they just annihilate Brighton, Villa, Fulham, Brentford, or whatever. And so that there's a temptation there to just like table the conversation for that rationale, or
Yeah.
maybe like we just keep it simple and just get good teams who are going to score goals. Liverpool
Yeah.
score goals and keep
Yep.
clean sheets. You're
Yeah.
missing out on that. The beating a team
Upset
that's higher
element.
than you.
Yeah. It's hard not to try to like, go for like it's like, do you want to it's like in roulette, right? You
Hmm.
can bet on red and black, but your payouts are significantly smaller, right? If you bet on a particular number or like a row, then your odds are significantly less, but if you hit, it's incredible, right? And
Hmm.
so I do think, especially if you're not doing well, like there is an opportunity with this assistant manager chip for it to be the single most important thing you do the entire season, like in terms of how you help your rank. Do I love that? It feels a little bit like a Deus Ex Machina,
Hmm.
right? To have this, but
Hmm.
whatever. I don't want to. Whatever. It is what it is. It's here, and we're gonna try it out and see how it works this
Some
season.
poor soul who has been grinding in their mini league for 10 years, and they finally have the season of their
Yeah,
life, and
yeah,
then they get beat in like the final game week because
yeah,
some rookie
yeah.
played their assistant forgot to play their assistant
Yeah,
managership,
exactly.
rolls it
Picks
out.
up 62 points, and you're like, oh my God.
Right.
Or actually, the worst thing would be somebody who's won the league like 4 times,
Yeah.
is having their first bad season and then just nails the assistant manager chip,
Yeah,
right?
that
So
that does sound terrible to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. And we'll talk a lot more next week about the system managership, obviously, because going into game week 24, it's a big pod. I mean, a big week. It'll be a big pod because we have
Yeah.
the double and the assistant managership kicking off. But again, you don't have to use it in 24. You can just use it starting in
Hmm.
24. All right. So next question is from Mike DePietri says, I hate myself for having to ask this, but in a vacuum, do you think using the bench boost or the assistant managership is better? Again, I think it's the assistant managership if depending on your strategy. If your strategy is to, like you said, go with the kind of Liverpool approach and just go for, goals and clean sheets. I just need to like do the math of it a little more, right?
It's like because the assistant manager chip runs over the course of 3 game weeks, you have more control, and I think you can size it like a little bit more, somewhat more accurately. Whereas the bench boost is 1 game week, and it's much more volatile. There's a lot more variance, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that that is true. Sort of, you really. Yeah, I wish I knew more of the context in which he was asking it, right? Because like if it's 1 week, sure, it's just a managership, but
Mike knows how to get a hold of us if he wants to talk.
That's true. Yeah, Mike, you can find us anywhere. You're yeah, exactly. And so he, by the way, I keep forgetting he gave us some cards that I have been holding on to, some really fantastic old soccer/football cards that I have. I took my half, and then I have a half for you. And they were, you literally were sleeping 2 feet from them last night. You could have been flipping through them before bed. So thanks again, Michael, for those. Yeah. I don't know why I called him Michael in a formal sort of way. All right. So Kendall asks, if Saliba is out, are we making a straight switch to Gabriel Timber, or jumping up Arsenal with the Arsenal defense having 1 clean sheet in the last 6? Kind of answered this already, but
we're not fans of the double Arsenal defense right now.
No, I like the idea. I think Konate as he's kind of locked into a spot right now, and he's affordable. He's actually cheaper than like $1 million cheaper or so than the Arsenal defenders. And honestly, it's been like a little attacking as well. I feel like he's been kind of having some opportunities in the box. I don't know what his like XG looks like at all, but like it feels like he's been involved in some set pieces and things like that. So not the sexiest pick for sure, but or Oli Aina, who once again picked up an attacking return today. For us have been fantastic. So, and he's still, I don't know, he's still cheaper than Timber. I mean, he's in the 5 millions now.
Aina is just like so easily in the team of the season right now, and it's so out of nowhere, and congrats to him. Ibrahim Konate's XG against Brentford was 0.15. Okay. What do you think about that? It's something.
I mean, for center back, it's not terrible. Yeah.
XA 0.43.
So. Okay, so he was creating. So that's, I mean, it's like honestly, that's pretty solid. I feel like
2 chances created, 1 big chance created. That's enough for me.
Okay, yeah, I thought that's what that jibes with what I felt like I was seeing in yesterday's match. So, so I think I would not be jumping from one Arsenal defender to another at the moment. And then finally, Mike Thunder says best third Liverpool player after Mo and Trent, or avoid and go for a Foden or Mbomo instead. So we did talk about Konate. I know that's not the most exciting pick. I think Robertson, given all the matches that Liverpool are playing, and given that we just saw Tsimikas play, I feel like, and play well, I feel like I would be wary of Robertson. I do like Gakpo, as we discussed, and Luis Diaz is the one player we haven't really talked about. I don't know. Yeah. What do you think?
His minutes are the thing that scare me off of him. He's the one that's getting subbed off around the 60th minute, and could presumably lose his place if anyone would. I think it really is personalized to your team. Like Liverpool have good players in every area of the fantasy pitch, even including Alisson, who we also mentioned at the top of the pod. So I think I kind of am thinking of them in terms of, I just want a share of a particular fantasy activity. And from there, which player who has access to that share, be it clean sheets or attacking points, can I afford, can naturally replace a player I want to get rid of.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, you're not again getting, tearing your squad down to the bones to rebuild.
No one's, I mean, Trent included, is having such an amazing season that warrants tearing up your team for that individual player, except for Mo, right?
Yeah, and I mean Trent's had his another good match, obviously, in this last game week. But I also had him for like a 7 or 8 game week stretch where he was pretty much worthless, right? And so he's not an absolute rock star, I would say. He's extremely good, but he's not, far from an essential fantasy asset. So yeah, I guess that's it, Brandon. Yeah, so you'll be traveling, so we'll be having some guests on over the next couple of weeks, but it'll be well, I'll certainly be back next Sunday to talk about game week 24. Lots to discuss, as we've already discussed. One of those game weeks where it's like the game week ahead almost gets lost because the one ahead of it is so interesting. But lots of fun ahead game week 23. Brandon, just as we sign off here, is there one match that is your MFFA Make Fantasy Fun Again match of the weekend? What game would you pick if you had to pick just one to watch, just for the sheer fun of it, Brandon?
Well, I just had so much fun at Stamford Bridge last November watching Chelsea Man City. Granted, they're playing at the Etihad. Never been. Seems less fun than Stamford Bridge, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But that just seems like a match that both defenses are terrible, and it's probably going to be 5-5. And then, like, going in the middle of the table, Palace Brentford, two incredibly evenly matched teams, it seems, at this point in the season. I think that one could be almost the inverse, where it could be 0-0, but they will be throwing punches at each other with much frequency.
I think Bournemouth Forest, certainly on Saturday as well.
For sure,
that could be a great one. All right, well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our producer patrons. Brendan, you want to say a quick thank you to our producers?
Absolutely. Thank you to producers Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, Dave Wegner Lodahl, our buddy Chris Howell, Andy Penn, Nick Wright, Lazarus Llanos, Jesse Halstead, Brian Chin, Bobbas Kuhn, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, Terrence O'Donnell, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, as he does it, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Craig Jackson, Caleb Robbie, Brian Clark, Thomas Tisloff, Fro Jacobson, Gareth H., Shalin F. Gadakia, Rishi Nigam, Noah and Louise, Travis Grant, Linus Vennerstrom, Matthew Skinner, Ben Coombs, Eric Kite, Rune Sandberg, the three Jims, James Murray Wood, James C., and James Holland. James Holland, I pray that you had to go to the dentist instead of that Ipswich match today. Scully, Craig at Total Mass Tutoring, and also Francis Mann. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Follow us wherever you get social media. And our website is alwayscheating.com.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye.
All right, let's see if this YouTube ends on its own.
Come say. I just finished. Yeah. Here, you come around. You can say hi to Uncle B real quick. Why are you still up so late, by the way? Here, come around. No, don't go under there. Nope, stop. There we go. Okay. Ugh.
So it looks like the stream. Hey, Quinn.
Hi.
Long time no see.